I always tell people, if you purchase one short-term rental, it's almost guaranteed you're going to purchase a second, third,
Oh,
fourth one.
100%, because
You're
you do
you're
the
going to
math.
figure it out. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just you find out this business is generating money. It's fun, not all the times, but the thing is, like, you get to use it on vacation. It's something people could wrap their minds around. And if you purchase right, like I said, you only need a handful of them to get to that financial freedom. And we're actually, freedom is actually the bigger word there, because
Mm,
now you're not emboldened to hospital administration, the boss that you can't stand anymore, all the politics at work. That kind of goes away, because you know in your heart you could walk away at any time if you wanted to. You're
that right there.
not tied down into that
Yeah.
job. You're not stuck. And I think a lot of healthcare workers, they get to a point in their lives, they keep getting more and more degrees, they keep moving up the ladder and getting, into different committees, but they're stuck. That's not freedom at all. And so with short-term rentals, I feel like I have that freedom.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
When did you like fall into the space? I feel like there's always like a special,
Yeah.
Like either a seed that's planted, or because it's not like traditional to be like, oh,
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean? It's like traditional is like Bigger Pockets, which I've listened to for years,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like House Hack. And then there's the
Mhm.
multifamily train, which is kind of like
Yeah.
the whole whether it's Jake and Gino or like Joe
Mhm.
Fairless, there's that Kool-Aid. And then the short-term rental one is, I'm always interested of,
Yeah.
if that's kind of like an experiment, as we call it in our lab, that kind of
Yeah.
just happened, or it was kind of like, nah, I need to look into this. Like, which one was it for
Yeah.
you?
I think you described it perfect, to be honest with you. I mean, I started in 2003, 2004. And to be honest with you, I was an awful investor. I think the first thing I invested in was a scam. Got scammed out of 16 grand on a duplex out in Colorado that they never owned. It was a brand new construction. But I started investing back then. The market was crazy. Everyone was getting into real estate, but the properties here in Southern California didn't make sense. So I started investing out of state in long-term rentals. I think
Mm,
the more work you put into it, the more money you make, right? And so I was kind of very passive in all of those investments, where I used a property management team and I pretty much broke even, but I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. I did have
mm.
a handful of LTRs, and then 2008 hit and I got hit really hard. And I remember I bought one long-term rental close to a hospital I was working at. I work at a hospital, so I'm a respiratory therapist. And that was negative cash flowing like crazy. It was negative cash flowing, like I think $1,500 if they paid on time. And if they paid, I mean, and there were some months where I was having to shell out like $3,500, and at a certain point I ran out of time and money and energy and had a foreclosure, had a bankruptcy. So it was, I gained all this knowledge in real estate and I felt like I had to start over. And I didn't want that knowledge to go to waste, but I knew at the end of the day, cash flow was going to be king. Like
Mm.
out of all of those, design, location, anything, I just needed to focus in on cash flow. And so once I started getting my finances back together from the bankruptcy, paying off bills, debt, getting a higher paying job, I said, you know what, let me start investing in real estate again. Started investing in like some like C-class properties in like Ohio, Huntsville, Alabama. They all performed okay, but I felt like I would need to buy like 200 properties to get to my financial freedom number.
Right. That's what we don't
Right,
talk about, right? Like
right.
the slowness, or the,
Hmm.
like it works in the
Right,
compound effect, huge
right,
believer of it. But it's
right.
like,
Takes
how
forever,
much
right?
how much time we got.
And not only
Right?
that, I
Yeah.
remember filling out mortgage applications. It was a pain in the ass. Like you have to fill out every single property you had. At a certain point, I had like,
Ask
I
for your
don't know, like,
saliva, social
yeah,
security, like
everything.
blood test.
And yeah, right. And so you nailed it on the head earlier. Everyone kind of goes into multifamily. Maybe I get a duplex or a quad, and then I
Mhm.
went to a boot camp, and they were talking about getting 100 units, 200 units, the Jake and Gino thing. It was actually a Rod Cleef event, and I
Oh, I
said,
know
maybe,
Radcliffe. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, maybe that's what I need to do.
What's your
And
thought on that? I actually I haven't had this discussion because before you pass over that real quick, let
yeah,
me stop you.
Yeah.
What is your thought on LP being limited partner versus doing what we
GP.
do in the short-term rental?
Yeah,
Oh no, I wasn't even gonna say GP, but well, maybe unless you want to go there. Like,
yeah,
actually, maybe that's a good comparison. Maybe there's two. It's like, okay, there's GP, LP versus STR, and it doesn't have to be a versus, but it's just like when you look at the two, because we're in a lab, that's what we do. We kind of look at these experiments. Okay, like which one is the best for me? Which is probably the question that everyone should be asking. Like, what's the best for you? But I'm curious, in your case, when you look at them on paper, why one over the other?
yeah. So there's this spectrum. There's never this thing where everyone wants the least amount of work that makes the most money. I mean, there are like different sweet spots and stuff like that, but the more work you're going to put into it, the more money you're going to make. And you want to be completely passive, you're going to make less money. For me, at this point in my life, I want to be very active because I need to generate income. And to me, short-term rentals gets there where you only need a handful of properties. I strongly believe you only need a handful of properties to get to financial freedom.
What's handful
So,
for you, for context?
so like my financial freedom number is $25,000 a month. I feel like I would feel very comfortable with that. I just did my loan application because I'm doing pretty much a burr, and 2 properties over in the Smokey Mountains of Tennessee generates a little over $10,000 a month.
That's
And even
in profit or gross?
net profit,
Net profit.
right? And so even, I mean, what does $10,000 a month do to someone's life? Like, even if you're not
Changes it for
trying to
sure.
get to financial freedom, like even if you just want to live off that
Yeah.
and just, live minimally, I mean, that's financial freedom already. For me, I have a little bit bigger goals. I have 4 kids and we want to send them to college and pay some bills and stuff like that and have a little bit extra
You got a
money.
whole
So
army. You putting them to work yet?
one of them, yeah.
Oh, see, it's all
But
strategic.
But see, one's already in college and it's like $30,000 a year. So it's going to cost us money, right? Smart girl. So we have to support her.
You got some
but
good
yeah,
genes, man. You got 4 kids. You look
yeah, I
like
do,
money,
yeah.
bro. Seriously.
Thanks, man.
Jeez, I could be one of your kids. No, I'm just kidding. Like, no, it's funny. It's just you. You got 4 kids. That's awesome, man. And you look you're super young and you're hustling. And
Well, I wish I was
let me
super young, but
no, you are, man. You are young. If I'm
but
not seeing the salt and pepper yet, you're young.
but that, as far as the LP, I think being an LP is kind of where we all want to be eventually, where we just put our money and it generates income for us.
Yeah.
So eventually what I want to do is take my active money, kind of put it into passive deals, and eventually have that passive income kind of overtake the active income.
Yeah. Do you think it just
I
takes more money to have it? Because I think we don't talk about that enough, right? There's
Yeah.
like, we talk about, oh yeah, stocks, like 8% return. That's not it. Well, it depends how much you have. If you have 10 million, the
Right.
stock market's not a bad place, right? And
Right.
I'm not a huge, like, I have some stocks, whatever. I'm a real estate investor, but I'm also an
Right.
entrepreneur, right? And so it's kind of
Right.
like we don't really talk about the scale of return. Like, it depends how much you're investing in the LP. If you're investing like
Yeah.
10 million versus 1 million versus 500,000 versus 50K, like there's a difference there. And I don't think we talk about that enough, because it's kind of like,
Right.
it's just like this end all, this blanket statement of like, oh, like I don't do that. But like, I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you're trying to find the best vehicle for you right now to actively make the gross amount of money to get your income numbers, so that you can have that large amount of passive income, because you'll have a large amounts of money that will then work for you. And depending on the scale that you invest that money at will be dependent on the return at scale that you get passively. Did I summarize that right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know one dude, he's invested in 50 plus passive deals. That's insane, right? But you have to have a lot of money to do that. And I don't have a lot of money, I mean, a lot of these deals that you invest passively in, they have a minimum of 25,000 or 50 to $100,000. I don't have that,
Yeah.
And to be honest, the returns, the monthly cash flow on those aren't that great. I mean, you might see a check here and there. Eventually, when they sell, you might get a nice return. Like with ours, I think we invested 50,000. In 18 months, they gave us a check for 75,000. which is pretty good return, right? Like you pretty
Okay.
much
You,
made
I'm
half
sorry,
your return.
18 months?
Yeah. So I
You made
mean,
a
they
little
got
over than
lucky.
half.
Yeah, they got lucky because I mean the market, the cap rates compressed. The market rents jumped in that region,
Mm.
so you know the net operating income improved just naturally, just
Yeah.
with rents going up, and so the
Let's take
value
that.
of the property went up. So
Yeah, no, that's a good example. Thanks for sharing that, Alex. Let's take that number. And sorry, I got excited because I nearly cut you off there. So I apologize. I got excited
no,
when
it's
you
good.
told me about the numbers. So you put in 50K, you got 75K in 18 months. That's probably that's a great case study right there.
Mhm.
If you for the interest of our listeners and whoever's watching, money is all about opportunity cost, right? So why don't you kind of give us a little case study on maybe if you have a deal, great. If not, if you were to put that 50K on the short-term rental side, again, it's not passive, it's active. What
Yeah.
kind of return do you think you could get with 50K? Because I don't know what the math is. I want to do public math right now, but 75K, you got a little more than half over, right? Of almost doubled, right? In 18 months.
Yeah, like a 50% return in 18
50%,
months.
right?
On top of that, I
So
was able to do the cost segregation thing and all that.
yes,
So you get a nice little
K1
tax
and
break.
all that.
Mhm.
So let's compare that. We're in the lab. Like, what do you think if you want to highlight it to someone who's like, yeah, no, that's the Kool-Aid I'm drinking? Like, well, why should they consider maybe you're the seed that plants them to be like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Alex said something key here. What's the opportunity cost here if you were to go into SDRs?
Yeah, so I could give you my first short-term rental,
Yeah,
right?
let's
So I
do it,
purchased
man.
that for 625,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now I had a bankruptcy and foreclosure, but I did have financing initially for a 10% down payment. So 62,500 was going to be the down payment. So I could have gotten that at that time. And so someone with better credit could have gotten that. The first year of owning that short-term rental, it generated $135,000. And
What's the
yeah,
hold on? And again, this is why the space, that's how I got pulled into it. I'm like, hold on. You need to say that one more time for the people in the back. That's 135,000.
yeah, gross revenue, right?
Gross
That
revenue, of
includes
course.
cleaning
Yeah.
fees, yeah,
Yeah,
not the
yeah, sure.
taxes or Airbnb
Yeah,
fees,
and the mortgage, right? But
right?
that already shows you the okay, so give us some context. What kind of property is this? 625,000. What can I get for that?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Well, you can't get it now. I mean, maybe in a few
No,
months
I know,
or
I know.
a couple of years.
Times have changed. As by the time we
Right,
release this, we don't even know where we'll be at. But
right. Yeah, it was in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. It was brand new construction, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,300 square feet, and an amazing location in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
oh, you
Um,
timed Pigeon Forge. How'd you get in so quickly? I mean, that's a
you
good
know, it's
timing. What year
well, I
was that?
bought it 2020, right? And not that long ago,
That's
right?
crazy. Yeah, but that's good. That window though is good enough because like prices start to get a little ridiculous.
It started jumping. It's
Yeah.
crazy because at a certain point in your real estate career, you're going to have to take a risk, and you do enough research out there and networking, and you're like, okay, I feel comfortable with this. At the time, I was trying to syndicate apartments, and it just wasn't happening. And my CPA, Amanda Hahn with Keystone, she actually said, you know what, you should consider short-term rentals because you'll get more material participation hours to claim real estate professional. And I know some of my clients are making good money with short-term rentals. And so I said, okay, if I'm going to invest in short-term rentals, what market do I need to invest in? And I reached out to my network and I just put a question out there on Bigger Pockets. And everyone kept telling me the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. I had no idea where that was, Ruben. I was like, what the hell is that? I'm from Southern California. I have no clue what that is. But I'm like, okay, let me drink the Kool-Aid. Let me reach out to who's the best agent there. Reached out to an agent. And at that time, I traveled to the Smokies. I was just looking back at my pictures, July 2020. And if you guys remember what the economy was like in July 2020 and how we all felt, like we all were scared. We didn't know if the economy was going to jump off a cliff, what. So the house I bought, it sat on the market for 40 days. Like nobody was buying it.
That's
And I'm
crazy.
looking at this thing like, okay, I could buy this at 625,000. My agent at the time gave me a conservative figure. She said, it's probably going to generate you $100,000 a year. And I said, okay, well, how much of that am I going to keep? And she said, probably half. And I said, okay, so I'm gonna put $62,500 down, and I'll
it back.
profit $50,000. And I can do a cost seg study on this, which not a lot of people at the time were doing. I was like, okay, this seems like a win here, a home run. And it turned out to be even better. And on top of that, it allowed me to learn a business. On top of that, it allowed me to teach others, because I love giving back and helping others. And so I've helped so many other people kind of learn this business. So it's just been something that's been
cool,
constantly giving. Yeah.
I didn't know that. So by the way, it's so rewarding because, I recently taught, like, someone came, like, will you co-host? And I'm like, no, I don't think your margins are there, but I could coach you. And like, here's my fee and I'll just teach you everything. And I was so rewarding because I'm looking at her calendar now and it's like super booked. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's really cool, isn't it? Like, I feel like in this space, there's a lot of room to teach, which I really like. Just before I go back on a few things that you said, just while we're on this topic, are you helping people who are like you? And just for when I say by that is, I know you come from the healthcare and you mentioned it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what it was. What kind of therapist are you?
So I'm a respiratory therapist. So COVID,
Respiratory?
yeah. So COVID, all the ventilators, life support, we're in the middle of it. We're in the front of the front line, working the ICUs. But what I found was, and I found this before that, and COVID kind of accelerated like the conversation with everyone, is that everyone loved healthcare, working in it. There was some type of passion to become a doctor, become a nurse, because you liked helping people. They didn't like all the politics that hospitals brought. They didn't like working for a boss. They didn't like the schedule, being on call and doing overnight call and having no control over your life. You're missing out on family functions. And a lot of healthcare workers, they were getting burnt out before COVID. And then COVID came and it put it on steroids. But everyone saw me like, oh my God, that guy, he purchased a short-term rental, is generating $5,000 a month profit off one. And so their minds started thinking like, maybe I still like healthcare. I still love being a nurse or a doctor. What if I cut back and just work part-time, purchase a short-term rental and supplement my income? It wound up being, I would help somebody like, someone, a coworker, a nurse or a doctor purchase one. I always tell people, if you purchase one short-term rental, it's almost guaranteed you're going to purchase a second, third, fourth one. You're going to figure it out. Yeah, it's just, you find out this business is generating money. It's fun, not all the times, but the thing is, like, you get to use it on vacation. It's something people could wrap their minds around. And if you purchase right, like I said, you only need a handful of them to get to that financial freedom. And freedom is actually the bigger word there, because now you're not emboldened to hospital administration, the boss that you can't stand anymore, all the politics at work. That kind of goes away, because in your heart, you could walk away at any time if you wanted to. You're not tied down into that job. You're not stuck. And I think a lot of healthcare workers, they get to a point in their lives, they keep getting more and more degrees, they keep moving up the ladder and getting, into different committees, but they're stuck. That's not freedom at all. And so with short-term rentals, I feel like I have that freedom. So
experimentation, I always experiment. And the reason why is I'm always trying to find the best tool, the best method, and the best vehicle to help me get to my end goal. One of the tools that we use in the short-term rental space is Guesty for Hosts. Now, experimentation, you know that I love to test things, and I wouldn't be sharing with you anything that I don't use myself. As a short-term rental superhost, Airbnb superhost, listings that we own and co-host at the same time, I can tell you that there's no better software that allows us to streamline our business. Right now, currently, there's actually 3 properties right now that are currently where guests are checking in, and I'm here with you, and I did not need to send in check-in instructions for these current properties, right? There are multiple ways that you can streamline your operation, from on the front end and on the back end, from being able to create a website, from being able to get income reports for your team, to looking at statistics, to setting up auto reviews, to integrating your smart lock so that you don't have to sit here and send every day and remind yourself to send the passcodes for your smart locks. No, instead you can integrate directly the exact same way that you can actually send your cleaners a link so that they don't have to remind themselves when they need to go to cleanings. There's text reminders that go out. There's links that can go out for them. This is a tool that if you're looking to give a smooth experience for your team on the back end, it will truly reflect, and it does, for your guests on the front end. Make sure you go to host.guesty.com and use our unique link. Our unique link will be in our bio, in the show notes. If you're currently watching this, you'll see it right here at the bottom of my screen. Use this unique link so that you can tell Guesty that I sent you. You don't want to miss out on this. You need a PMS, property management software, in your business if you're looking to operate like a super host that you deserve to be, so that your guests can have the best experience that they deserve to have at your properties. Again, that host.guesty.com. Use our unique link that is here on the screen, in the bio, and in the show notes if you're listening to this, guys. Happy hosting.
That's cool. I love what you said, is that having that choice, right? Because sometimes internally it's liberating, because you're like, hey, I'm choosing to be here, right? Like, I don't have to be here. That in itself has power, right? That's really cool. And I love what you said about Alex, about it's something that everyone understands. I even feel like there's sometimes a little bit of a disconnect when you say, when you look at, like, and I'm not picking on multifamily syndication here, I'm just using it as an example, or like at fix and flip, I think people see a lot of risk, they get overwhelmed. Multifamily syndications, like, hey, like, you mean I'm locking my money for 5 years and then but I guess there's still you could still understand that. I think short-term rental, it's kind of, most of us have been in a hotel or a vacation home, and you could see it, you could touch it, it's kind of manageable almost. Like it's and the reason I say that is coming from the marketing perspective, it's all about relatability. And you need to be relatable. People, when you're being the hero, you'd be like, hey, like, or not you being the hero, when you're serving the hero, it's like, I feel like I could go on this journey as well. It's not like overwhelming. And then when you use the model that's very powerful, you're like, wait, this same home that you have, that home that's just sitting there, that home, if done properly, if in the right market, that single door can bring you this much. I think that's what makes this kind of industry kind of cool, because it's a relatable, but it's a really powerful asset that, again, needs to be done correctly. And that's when we can rely on people like you to kind of show us the ropes of how to do that. But that's really cool. I want to you mentioned something key earlier, though, about and I didn't want to let this slip through the cracks, about, and it's Amanda Hahn, right?
Yes. Yeah, Amanda
She's
Hahn.
a beast. I heard. I think she was STR 7, and it's so cool because I'm working with a new CPA and I'm like really geeking out. Like, it's just so important. The whole cost seg. So and something I'm going to do too, but I want you to touch on it because I bought in 2020 as well. Like super low rate. And really exciting, but I want you to talk about the real estate professional component on the cost seg study. If, again, knowing that you're not a cost seg specialist or anything like that, but just kind of give us that insight, because you planted that seed real quick and subtle, but I want to highlight it because it's really important. And I want you to just talk about what the benefits are for that cost seg. Can you just give us some insight in the STR space?
Yeah, there's a huge loophole there. I don't even know if I should call it a loophole. It's just, it's legal, right? It's something the government wants you to do. I mean, there's this huge benefit to owning short-term rentals, especially for high net worth individuals. And that's kind of how I teach these healthcare professionals, like, hey, man, you don't necessarily have to be a real estate professional to get those hours, because what we do is we do a cost segregation study. So the cost segregation study, everyone always talks about, hey, what deductions do you need, right, to help offset my income because I'm paying so much in taxes? And people say, hey, you could probably like write off your plane flight and write off buying a dishwasher, or like you could provide Netflix for your cabin and you could get a write-off. Those pale in comparison to anything that a cost segregation can do. So I'll give you numbers, real concrete numbers here, Ruben. So our first cabin we purchased for $625,000. It gave me a $207,000 deduction year one. Okay.
207,000.
And that doesn't even, I'm not even, this is just depreciation. I'm not even including my mortgage interest. I'm not including my closing costs any of the items I purchased, cleaning fees. So the write-offs are probably closer to $250,000, right? So I can use that money because it's a short-term rental. Now, there's some certain laws there that you have to meet, some certain hours you have to meet to help write off my W-2 income. Because in general, all income is deemed passive by the IRS. And so you can't use that to help offset your active income, your W-2. But with short-term rentals, like I said, there's a little loophole there where you can use that to help offset my W-2. So real numbers, you guys love real numbers, right? Year one, I got a $41,000 tax refund, right? And so what do you do with that? Well,
hold on.
I buy more short-term rentals.
Hold on. Stop. Hold on, Alex.
Real numbers, you guys like them.
You have a
I'm
job.
an open book, man.
You're W-2, right? And
Mhm.
respiratory therapist.
Yeah.
You have a good paying job.
Mhm.
You have an STR.
Yeah.
How, and you're in California.
Yes.
How in the hell do you get back from the IRS what is, I believe, above the average the average income someone makes in America, right? Is right
Yeah.
around 40K, right?
Something like that, close to that.
You know, I just gave you some great copy, by the way, if you ever want to use that. How I got
Right.
back more than what someone, no, because people will be like, oh, Alex is a douchebag. No,
Yeah.
but it's good copy for context there.
Yeah.
You got that back as a credit.
Yeah.
I just need to just pause for a second to just
Mhm.
level set, because I had one firm do my taxes this year. They were more like a bookkeeping, and then I got like a guy who works with cost seg specialist, and he's a
Mhm.
really solid CPA,
Mhm.
and he saves me like thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was just
Right.
blown away. I'm like, I will never take tax strategy lightly
Mhm.
ever again. Like ever. I
Right.
was just like, this is mind-boggling. So
Yeah.
I don't know how long you have, but just at a high level, how the heck did you get 40K back when you have full-time job? It's not like, oh yeah, you're an entrepreneur and
Yeah.
you just do STRs. Like you
Yeah.
have a job. Did it just offset the income that you had, active income that you had made in your W-2 and then some?
Pretty much. I mean, at a certain point in your career, you're gonna have to hire the best professionals and stop doing it all yourself. And that's when I went to Amanda Hahn and I said, "You're gonna be my first big hire," and she helped guide me that way. And she pretty much taught me the strategy. Owe her everything. And so with me, I'm not the smartest guy out there. I'm a C student in high school. Really, I mean, it's not because I'm stupid. It's just I worked a lot, played baseball, interested in girls all the time. And so I wasn't really focused, right? But the thing is, I mean, my job as a respiratory therapist, we don't have the highest degree. I mean, I went to community college where Chris Rock says everybody in the community could go to, right?
I never
So
heard that. I love that. I
yeah,
love that.
everyone gets accepted, right? And so for me, respiratory therapists in the hospital, we don't make as much as a nurse or nowhere near a doctor or any other of those higher professions. But for me, I went to work. I went to work like crazy. And if anybody that's watching this knows me, I was working 6-7 days a week, to the point where I was so hungry and motivated to really kickstart financial freedom and get all these properties. And the thing is, you don't even need to do it that long. So we were generating, I think 3 years in a row, I generated over 200,000 a year, just working all the time. But I was paying like $35,000-$40,000 in federal income taxes
Yeah.
out of my paycheck, right? And I was claiming single and zero, right? And so at the end of that year in 2020, I paid, I think $38,000 went to Uncle Sam. I claimed single and zero the whole time. Everyone said, "You're stupid. You shouldn't do that." But I like big tax returns, right? And I said, okay, I think I might get a $10,000 or $20,000 tax return because I think I played my cards right here. It takes a while for the income strategy or the tax strategy to really take into effect. It takes a year or two for you to finally understand it, because then you still have to purchase the homes and understand how to document your hours and everything. So I paid $38,000 that year in federal income taxes out, all this overtime going straight to Uncle Sam. But at the end of the year, I pretty much got it back and some, because with child tax credits and all of the other credits that they give you. So I paid I paid zero. Absolutely zero. I got everything back. And what does someone do with a nice tax return? They buy more real estate that gives you more cash flow, that gives you more tax breaks. And so you're caught in this like pretty cool cycle, I guess, because this is the second year I didn't do as much overtime, and I got a $28,000 tax refund. So it's kind
Wow.
of just
So my key takeaway here is invest in hiring the right person
yes,
that
gonna
will
take you a
get
long
you
way.
a long way and make you money, right? Because the
Right.
money that you spend, and we're not gonna, obviously can't disclose because I'm sure Amanda's rates are, going to change all the time, but whatever you put into that, the return that you're getting on that and your time, because you're working every day, and so that's what taxes are about. And now the opportunity cost that you have with the money that you can, right? Because you're not going to put that in your savings, you're going to put it back to work, or maybe you are, but whatever.
Yeah.
What we're trying to say is there's so much return on that money that you put in, and based on money that you got back out, with, again, speaking to the right professional. Like, that's just so important.
Yes, 100%. Totally worth it. And I'm a DIY guy. I try to do everything on my own. I try to YouTube everything. You could YouTube anything nowadays, right? And learn everything. At a certain point, I said, I don't have enough time to learn about tax laws. And I looked at rich people. I remember like the whole election cycle, they always talked about how this candidate paid zero in taxes. And the way I looked at it was, well, how do I pay zero in taxes? Like, what are they doing that I can't do? And so I really, that's all I did. I said, well, how are they not paying taxes? They're probably doing it through real estate. A lot of people are doing it through real estate. And so I found the right profession to really guide me. So
yeah. How do you get to, find it? Because I think that's something I was on the hunt for a while as well. So someone who's listening, when is the best time to reach out to a professional? Definitely not in March. But when would you say is the best time? And then after the when, how do you reach out to them?
Yeah, the best time was yesterday, and the second best time is today. Because the thing is, like I said, it gets the ball rolling. It gets your mind rolling, because they're not going to cook up your books or anything like that. Everything they do is legal. And my CPA, she's a strategist, so she helps guide me, and she looks at my situation and tells me what I need to do for next year, so that way you don't get into the same situation, and that way you could try to figure it out. It's not like they're gonna like try to figure out like, I don't, like I had a CPA at one point, he's like, oh, we're gonna just say you donated this much money and all of that. That's not the right way to do it. The right way is to figure out what everyone else is doing and kind of find that strategy. So really reach out to someone. For me, I remember the first time I heard about Amanda Hahn, I was just listening to Bigger Pockets, and Brandon Turner at the time was talking about how this is my CPA. And I said, I need to reach out to that person. And that's really all it was. Wasn't anything smart or research that I did. I just heard someone using her, and I reached out to her. And at that time, she was still taking clients. I'm not sure if she's taking clients now, but I don't know her website, but I could give you her contacts or whatever later on, and you could reach out to her. If not, there's a lot of other CPAs that are getting into short-term rental, because this is like a niche, right? There's a niche there. So there's some CPAs that just solely focus in on helping the short-term rental operator. So
it's a game changer, and I'm excited. While I have you on the air here, because I recently got some insights. I'm in the middle of restructuring a lot of stuff, even how we were getting paid out, like new S corps and the whole 9 yards, cost segs. What's one tip you want to leave us? Again, not giving any legal or tax advice or anything like that, but just any insights that you've kind of a huge oversight. You're like, wait, are you serious? That you remember your CPA or anything along those lines of how people typically do things and how they ought to be doing it. Is there anything that comes to mind as a big, like, this stands out?
So as far as like LLCs or any of that stuff, like a lot of times, like I work with medical professionals and they want to know all the answers right away. Like they want to be covered. They're like, I want an LLC. I want this before I start doing it. For me, I just jump right in. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to figure it out along the way. You talk about opportunity costs. Time has passed you up But while you were trying to get educated, I invested in 5, 6, 7 homes already by that point,
Mm.
and started figuring it out. One other thing I'll tell you is about a lot of it has to do with documenting your hours. One thing I do, there's a pretty cool app. It's called Reps Tracker. So I use Reps Tracker, and I
Rep?
document all of my reps, REPS tracker. So that's real estate professional status tracker.
Mhm.
I think it costs like $10 a year or something like that. I don't even remember what it is, or $10 a month. But the thing is, I used to document everything on a spreadsheet, and here it'll actually voice like what's it called, dictate like what I'm doing. So like, let's say I was in Alabama, Gulf Shores, Alabama. Hey, just talk to my handyman, helped him paint a door, period. And then you can put, oh, that took me an hour and a half. So there are these like
Oh,
different
nice.
tests. Yeah, there are these different tests that you have to qualify for. Because the one thing is the IRS is beefing up their budget, so they're going to have a lot more people to audit people. You want to be able to have all of this documented legally,
For an audit, yeah.
right, for an audit. So not only that, it's a good idea to just start recording everything that you're doing, as you're doing it, just as a habit. Like, hey, I just drove to Home Depot. How many trips have you guys drove to Home Depot at your short-term rentals,
Stop,
right?
quit playing games, bro. You're exposing me. Wait, I'm totally gonna use this, man. This is why I
Yeah.
love this podcast. Reps Tracker. So
Yeah.
just for all the listeners and guys, I'm a practitioner. I'm gonna be sharing this. Um, it's I take out my phone and usually after the fact, hey, just spoke to such and such for this amount, and then I would just enter the amount,
Yeah.
and then that would
Right.
log it.
Yeah.
That's a great habit. You know why?
Yeah.
Because it removes the friction of like, oh,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I should probably open my Excel, but I don't. It's not open right now. Like,
Yeah,
you
right,
know.
right. And not only
Oh,
that, there's a timer. So you could even click the timer, be like, and you can take pictures, you could upload a video if you wanted to, it gets uploaded to the cloud. And I think the more detailed you are with it, the more it looks like, oh, this is a real activity. Like I could put in here, sent out emails 15 minutes, and the IRS will be like, well, what did the emails talk about? But I could say, hey, sent out emails to Sandy, talked about this, blah, 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 HOA issue with this, blah, blah. So the more detailed it is, I think it, if you ever got audited, I think it's very authentic, so.
yeah, no, I got you. Say no more. My goodness, that alone in itself is so much value you just gave. I'm downloading that as we speak. Reps Tracker. Thank you for that. That's a huge insight, and
Yeah.
it's just so important, I think. And
Mhm.
it's the unsexy things, isn't it? Right, that you got to
Right.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that matter. That truly
Yeah.
matter. Tell me, man. So you're currently a restoration therapist. You just came back from Gulf Shores. Looking at some of your short-term rentals, or not looking,
Mhm.
but kind of doing it sounds like a checkup. How often do you go down there to check up on them?
Well, I'm finding that I'm having to do it a lot more in the beach market. So this is my first year owning all 3 of those, and what I wanted to do was go back there after the busy
All
season.
3? But how'd
Yeah.
you buy 3 in 1 year? What was it?
Well, you realize you have an ATM machine, and you want to get as many ATM machines as possible with short-term rentals, right? Because these things print out money, and you're like,
Yeah.
how on the world? And you just figure it out. You're like, okay, I need to pull money from here. I need to pull out equity here. At
Are
the
you
time, there
borrowing
was
money, or are you refinancing? Because we're literally in that stage of I might consult you while I have you here, brother.
I'm
We're
doing that right
trying
now
to
too.
leverage some existing assets as well. So for someone who's like, yeah, I kind of want to, maybe I have one short-term rental and I kind of want to be like Alex, who has,
Yeah.
what is it, 6+ or 6?
Yeah. It'll be 7 here in at end of the year, but
That's super
get-
exciting.
I'll give you a case. Well, number one, the CARES Act of 2020 allowed me to pull from my 401k. Don't be afraid
Nice.
to touch your 401k if you had
100%.
to. So we wound up pulling $100,000 from my 401k, and my wife did. And we used that money to help
Smart.
grow our portfolio, right? And then I'll give you another case scenario. This is our first short-term rental we purchased for $625,000. Had bad credit, bankruptcy, and all that. Not the smartest guy. Wound up putting $120,000 into it to get the property. So the thing is, the property's boomed in value. It's worth well over $1 million right now. So now we have,
Since 2020?
right. And to show you, like, I'm the common guy, I was not very smart. So I set up automatic bill pay, and I set up accidentally automatic bill pay through the bank. I was making double mortgage payments for 14 months and I didn't even know it, right? That shows you how
No.
that shows you how much these things cash flow. I didn't even feel that I was making $2,600 extra payments. Idiot, right? It wasn't until I hired a bookkeeper. So hire the right professional. I finally hired a bookkeeper to look at my books, and she said, "Why did you make $35,000 extra payments? Where did this come from?" I'm like, "No, I want that money back. What are you talking about?" Right? And so
You
she
can't get
saw,
that back, right?
you can't get it back.
You gotta
can't-
refi it.
It's done. It's a done deal. They're
Wait,
not
that's
giving you your money back.
hilarious. Wait, I have some
Right.
more copy for you. How I think like a marketer, how I accidentally paid double my mortgage and still cash flowed in X amount.
Right.
Bro, you're gonna have some copy after this.
I didn't
Wait,
even know.
that's crazy. That's
But
hilarious,
anyway,
Alex.
now I owe like only $430,000 on the property, and it's gone up over $1 million.
Oh,
What we're doing is we're doing a cash out refinance to get all of our money back. Don't be
even
afraid to do that.
and
Yeah.
you're not tripping about the rates.
I'm not, because now I got a free house, baby. I understand that it was a 3% interest rate and
No, no,
I'm
no,
going
no,
to
no.
6%.
I'm with you. It's okay because you just made your money back.
I made
Oh,
all my
that's
money back.
insane.
It's like there's no water under the bridge. It's like I got pretty much a free house. Yes, it's not going to cash flow as much. It's cash flowing about $5,000 a month.
It's okay. Just
Boo-hoo,
pretend you're
it's
doing
gonna-
a triple mortgage payment.
right. Yeah, right. Right.
So
And
relative.
so now it's going to cash flow $3,000 a month, but I got no money into it. Right. So don't be afraid to do. Oh, here's the other thing. It's taking it out of my name. I'm putting it under my wife's name because she's
Mhm.
retired now, because of short-term rentals. It's
Yeah.
putting it under her name. So now that frees up my debt to income.
Debt to income. Yes, 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 yes.
Not only that, I purchased it as a second home loan where I had it as a 10% down payment. That's not under my name anymore. Now I could go back in the market if I wanted to and buy another vacation rental at 10% down if I
with
wanted.
another second home loan.
Right, right. 'Cause
Oh, dude,
off
that's
the
so awesome.
books.
That's another one too that I've been thinking about too, as strategic purchases like that with your partner to get in, but then refi it out and put it on the
Mhm.
other partner. Although I just got married this year, so I don't know if they. No, it doesn't matter because they're looking at your personal when you're buying, right? They're not looking
Mhm.
at the joint tax return.
Right.
They're
And
looking
that's
at your
another
debt too.
thing, to hire the best. Like I feel like I got the best loan officer and lender, and she owns short-term rentals herself.
Oh,
She's
that's
helping
cool.
me guide me. Like
Yeah.
it's not me that's coming up with these ideas. It's my CPA, my bookkeeper, my lender, that, because that's the thing. When you pay, I don't care about the price as much anymore as where they can help get me. Right. I built that
Mm.
really strong relationship. And if they could do something for you, I'm okay with overpaying. Because then now
Sure.
all of a sudden I wasn't even thinking about this strategy until she kind of guided me to get to that point. So
And this was you're saying your lender or
yeah,
your
my lender.
yeah. Now you have to. It's such a good. You're building right pillars, right? Like CPA is one, lender is another, bookkeeper is another. You said,
Yeah.
that's yeah. That's you got the right players, man. That you got to build. Who not how, right? I
Who
just
not
heard that.
how, right?
Who not how is so
And
key.
and you don't even have to get it perfect at first. Just
No.
get in, just
Yeah.
dive in, and
Yeah.
then you're gonna start figuring it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, experiment, fail, learn, repeat. And you know, in my studio, I'm not in right now, but that's what we live by, experimentation, right? Like, you really got to experiment quickly, and then you course correct. And there's no perfect experiment. I think that's the worst thing you could do. Try to wait until
Right.
things are perfect and then run your experiments. No, because you refine over way, you learn, and you're gonna meet
Yeah.
people as you're on your way up there that will course correct you as well.
right.
But then
And
the action that you've taken has already compounded over time too.
yeah, and like I said, the first real estate deal I did was a scam. I got scammed out of that money. Had I stopped there, actually, my wife should have stopped me. I don't know what she was thinking,
So
but she
tell me,
just
because
kept
you
going.
strike me as a guy who's very like reflective on kind of what you're doing, what you've done.
Mhm.
When you say you were scammed, what lessons learned do you see? Like, what blind spots didn't you have? Like, was it truly
Yeah.
like there was a lie or it was more like an oversight? Like, what are your thoughts?
Both. I
Mm.
think what happened is, I mean, the internet wasn't big back in 2003, and I was working with a nurse, and I was like, I want to get into real estate. And we were working night shift, and all of those infomercials were coming on in patients' rooms. And I said, maybe I get into real estate. And I overheard her talking about it. And she said, yeah, I'm doing this. And I said, well, give me the info. And I actually went and visited the company there in Englewood, Colorado. The guy even showed me the plot. I signed the contract and everything. But the thing is, I felt like, looking back at it now, I didn't do enough research, talking to other people and seeing what other real estate strategies there were. At that time, it was kind of like, hey, I'm just gonna do what someone else I know, I know that person's doing something, I want to just copy them. The internet is so free now. There's so many, like, if you network with enough people, you'll find all of these little real estate strategies. And I feel like I didn't do enough of that. And had I done that, oh my gosh, Ruben, imagine if we were investing in short-term rentals in 2004, 2003 at that time. Like, where would you be at this point, right? But my mind wasn't at that point. I was like, hey, I think I'd like to get a duplex at that time in Colorado, and I like that market. So there was a lot of it being duped. There was a sales pitch, a nice office, a nice car that took me out to the lot. And I'm like, okay, this is real. And then it wound up not being real. But you know what? Everything is on me. Everything is my fault. That was my fault. I didn't network enough. And yeah, that's really what it was. I just didn't network enough.
You're doing your due diligence. No, that's good, because I think it's important for us to be able to share these, in retrospect, and be like, what could I have done better, right? And kind of being solution oriented for our listeners. It's a good lessons learned. So tell me, you got what's the goal for you, man? Because it sounds like you're already well into your experiments. You got some deep roots planted, and seem like you're really got some good momentum now. You're saying you got 3 that you're working on. You're pulling money out. You're leveraging it the right way. You got the right people in your ear telling you what to do, what to look out for, things you didn't even think of.
Yeah.
Where are you trying to take this thing, man?
That, Ruben, this is something I struggle with every day. Where am I going to take it? Like, how far do I keep blowing it up? Because I'm 42 years old now, and the goals, it's weird, man. I'm that old guy now, and and the
Bro,
goals
you're 42. Would you cut it out, man? Look good. Got 4 kids. You just retired your wife. No, hold on. I'm gonna bless you on the air, because we don't do this enough. And I found myself, I was just talking to a friend about this. We're overachievers, and then we don't get a chance to appreciate what we've done because we're so focused on where we're going. So first of all, I love your honesty of like, you don't know, because sometimes like, oh yeah, you gotta write down like visualize your dream home, and you got to write it down, and what car you want to drive, and like what this, and like sometimes it's just not like that, because a lot of sometimes people that I surround myself with, they exceed their goals sometimes, or most people, when you talk to them, it's like, never how would I have imagined X. So I actually find goal setting to be an interesting exercise, and I'm actually going to retreat. I'm going to ask a special question around that, because sometimes I struggle with like the big hairy ass goal versus like what I think is like kind of a realistic, versus I got a coach who tells me he doesn't set goals. He just focuses on process. He's like, and he's made like $1 million in a day. You never imagined that was never a goal to do that. Right. Before we resume, I want to bless you on the air, brother. I feel like I'm on a sermon here, because you've done so much. That's why you're here. You're sharing with us. And I want to give you kudos, because it's not natural. And I think sometimes we're so surrounded by everyone who's doing it, because we're surrounded by peers who are elevated, that we lose sense a little bit. So to all the, being bankrupt, recovering from that, like filing for bankruptcy, or at least making a mistake, like there's so much wins and battle that you had to overcome, and now you're in a position where you are in a position, and I don't know if you've reached your number yet or you're on the way, but you're pretty, it sounds like you're there, or at least you have the choice to. So kudos. But on that note, Absolutely, Alex, take it in.
Yeah,
I love your
thanks.
answer. Why aren't you sure? Like, why, like,
because
what's
the
the, yeah.
because the goals aren't financial anymore. And the older I get, you
Mm,
think about legacy, like how on earth do I leave this world a better place? What did you do to help others? And so really, if you guys know me, and I've helped so many people invest in short-term rentals, I never took a dime. I really just gave them all my contacts. And I said, this is really my story, learn from it. And so now I just enjoy helping others achieve financial freedom also. And that's really the goal. Now, obviously, we want to make money, right? Obviously, we want to have our house paid for and take care of, our family and our kids. But then you get older and you're just starting to think, you think to yourself, like, how can I help others along the way? And so that's why I haven't really wrote down that goal, because I don't know what that is. And a lot of it, I haven't attached a number to it where some people are like, hey, I want to help 1,000 people retire or something like that. I don't know. With me, it's about creating meaningful relationships with
mm,
others, like really strong bond with, like I'm meeting up with healthcare work or coworkers soon for dinner. They've been itching to get me out there and buy me dinner. I have 6 coworkers I help purchase short-term rentals. I mean,
wow.
how much have that affected their lives, their whole like generations down? Like all of them are cash flowing 2, 3, 4 grand a month from it. How much has that really impacted their lives? And so with me, I get more gratitude. It's so rewarding just having that more than really generating the income. Don't get me wrong, I'm not even gonna BS with you guys. Generating the income is amazing, but when you start helping others and
Yeah.
you start seeing others like benefit from just you pushing them, and a lot of times they don't need a lot of guidance. They just need to be nudged, like, hey, you know what, I think you're in the right path, but go speak to my guy first before you do that.
Mm,
To me, that's rewarding, and I don't know what that goal is. I don't know. So
that's interesting, and I actually appreciate that because, yeah, there's a lot of just transparency, which, sometimes it's even hard to put a number next to things, just like you
mhm,
want more of this.
yeah.
It'd be interesting though to see where you take this, because you have, obviously, if people are coming to you, you have this natural kind of thing about you that you're willing to serve. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why you do what you do, which, I think you're probably going to be surprised at how many people you serve,
Hmm.
just because
Yeah.
people just flock towards people like you. So
Yeah.
that's really neat, man. But that it sounds, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty fulfilled, which is
Yeah.
refreshing to hear.
Very
um
fulfilled. Yeah.
yeah, and maybe you don't need to put a number on it. I think sometimes we just
Right.
put so many rules,
Yeah.
in place for ourselves when there really doesn't need to be that
Yeah.
many.
And
Uh
and at what cost? Like, yes, I
yeah.
could I could easily generate 100, $200,000 a month of income,
Mhm.
but what does your life look like? Right? Like,
Yeah.
for me, I'm real simple. I just want to spend time with my family, become a good father,
Mhm.
or be the best father, be the best husband, really, and enjoy experiences. And you don't need a lot of money for that,
Yeah.
right? And to
You need
me, like
time.
I said, as I get older, I value that a lot more than I do trying to hustle to get more units or whatever it is. So
Yeah. It's yeah, it's really important to know what you're optimizing for, dude.
mhm.
Sometimes I think even like, oh, I want to get into real estate. Why?
Right, right. And
What's
it's
the
like,
point?
hey, right. And that's the thing, like the time is the most important thing. But a lot of times we're getting into it and you're just creating another job for yourself. Like, why do I want to create another job for myself, take away time from family when the whole point was to get freedom, right? So,
That's a fact, man. You put it on a good, we ended on a good note here. So um where can, obviously I know that you're like, if I'm listening, I'm like, okay, I like this dude. where where do you like to be kind of connected, or be in touch with? Like, how do I get in touch with you?
yeah, so I'm trying to up my social media game a little bit. So I'm on Instagram a lot. So you could find me at the real Alex Sabio. If you just type in Alex Sabio, that should come up. I'm on
Yeah.
Facebook a lot. I created a healthcare community. It's called
You have a
Healthcare
huge
Professionals.
community. Isn't it like
Yeah.
more than like 10,000 people or something? You know?
No, I got like it's 3,000. It's small.
3,000?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's big.
So it's
No,
called
'cause
Healthcare Professionals Investing in Real Estate. So if you look me up
Mhm.
on Facebook, you guys are more than welcome to join. That's where I pump out my content all the time. I try to just put little tips here and there on how to manage your short-term rental. Because there's actually a lot more than, initially when you start looking at the podcast or listening to the podcast, there's a lot more that you really need to know. There's pricing, there's when we talk to Guesty for host, there's, that could be a beast to learn. And just, little tips with the short term. So I try to pump a lot of content out on there. So anyway, Facebook, Alex Sabio, Instagram, The Real Alex Sabio. Reach out to me anytime. I love talking real estate. So.
For sure. And if you're driving, you know the rule, you know the vibes. Just keep your eyes on the wheel. We'll include everything in the show notes. And I really like having this cash convo with you because, and you guys need to check out the Guest for Host episode where we did have Alex on there as well. That was a good one. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming in here and being so just authentic, genuine, and giving us some game. And you give us the game today.
I just share my experience. That's all I really do. I'm your average guy, just working hard, sharing my experiences. So
I don't know that you're an average guy, man. I don't think you give yourself enough credit. You're not an average guy. You're a savior. You're here to save people from their time. And I think what I appreciate about this space is there's a lot of leaders like you in this space. Call it what you want. A leader is someone who's willing to be able to pick someone up when they need the help and guide them. Doesn't matter how many followers you have, or even if you have a podcast, or even if you have a social media handle, or or either a title. It's just a matter of like helping someone else get to a level that they couldn't have gotten to by themselves, and you've done that time and time again. So I salute you for that, and I appreciate you uplifting our community as well and giving them a lot of insights, because I know they'll be able to benefit from it as well. So thank you, Alex, for coming into the lab and doing that.
Sure. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. And just like that, we are out.